Okay, well, hi everyone. Welcome to this Teach with Wikipedia presentation. Just before we start, we're going to learn about the Wikipedia student assignment, which engages professors to help their students to write articles for Wikipedia. Before we start, I want to go ahead. Since we have 3 participants and we're all here, I would love to know a few questions, ask you a few questions. What comes to mind, and what was the last article that you checked out on Wikipedia? Obviously, like, when we think of Wikipedia, you think of the free encyclopedia. It's editable by anyone. What are some other thoughts that come to mind? Go ahead.
I sometimes caution my students against Wikipedia when they run presentations. That they should just not do just that.
Yes, that they should not just
do that.
Just do that.
They should do other things too. But I myself do consult Wikipedia for I teach a culture and history class for the Scandinavian department, and even sometimes language issues. Like there are some pretty good language nerds creating content for grammar points, for instance, in the languages my department teaches.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes there's very good stuff.
Wow. Anyone else have any thoughts about what comes to mind when we think of Wikipedia? Whereas we had a nice long conversation about Wikipedia, but if you can maybe talk about it a little bit more.
One thing is like my students tend to go to Wikipedia instead of reading the assigned articles.
So I want to give this to you. This is sort of a mic.
That might be the one that's not working.
Yeah, it's the one that's not working.
Well, I can pass this one along.
Okay, perfect, awesome.
Yeah.
So they go to Wikipedia.
Yeah, right.
Instead of going to the reading.
Yeah.
So
on the other hand, I also consult.
You also, yeah. So everyone does use Wikipedia. I think we've realized that everyone does use Wikipedia, and at one point we're discouraged from using Wikipedia, but rather than discouraging your students from using it, why don't we encourage them to learn how to use it with the Wikipedia student assignment? So before I take you on a little journey, I want to just thank Doug and Corliss for making this possible. They are the ones who made this us being here possible. And before I introduce myself and my colleague, also I'll take you on a little quick journey. So this is an image of it's from the James Webb Telescope. It's the deep field view. I believe if you know it, it's about the size of a grain of sand, and it has thousands of never before seen galaxies in this image. And in this one, it's just actually quite stunning. And in that one image, the unimaginable became imaginable. And so just imagine for a moment that perhaps the Wikipedia assignment or Wikipedia article that your student writes could affect the outcome of a trial in a court of law, or the article that your student writes could affect 10 brand new scientific discoveries, or could lead to 10 brand new scientific discoveries. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. My name's Andres Vera. I am a Puerto Rican professional cellist and teacher based in San Francisco. I'm also the Equity Outreach Coordinator for Wiki Education. And my job is to strategically increase the diversity and of content and contributors to Wikipedia. I am joined by Helaine Blumenthal here in front. She'll be answering some questions at the end that you might have. Helaine develops relationships with instructors to deepen our support for our program activities. She has a PhD in history from UC Berkeley, and she brings extensive experience from higher education and academia to Wiki Education. And our goal today is to connect with you about incorporating the assignment into your classroom. And our instructors consistently report that their students become more excited about the research and class experience with taking on the Wikipedia assignment. A little overview about today. Today, I'll go over Wikipedia, general about Wikipedia, the Wikipedia student program, the impact that it has on students and professors, the impact on Wikipedia and the world, how to teach with Wikipedia, and the support you'll receive from Wiki Education, so you can inform possibly millions of people around the world. So quickly about Wikipedia. It is the free online encyclopedia. It is written and maintained by over 40,000 volunteers through open collaboration. It is the largest, most read reference work in history in over 329 languages. And in July, it was the 4th most visited website on the planet. The English Wikipedia was accessed by 786 million unique devices per month. And in August, it was viewed 7.2 billion times. This is an image of a subway station floor before you get onto a train, and it says "Mind the Gap." And we might think that Wikipedia is relatively complete, but it is not, as we all know. Or not as we all know, but as we've discussed, it is especially missing knowledge and perspectives from minority populations and women. And it is estimated that men make up 80 to 90% of the contributors to Wikipedia. We know that this has an effect on the topics edited and bias in perspectives and the new articles that are created. This is a graph of Wikipedia's featured articles. These featured articles go through a rigorous peer review process and are deemed the highest quality in the encyclopedia. As you can see, warfare, sports, music, video games have more featured articles than, say, versus engineering, health, medicine, geology, education, language and linguistics, philosophy, and psychology. I was also going to say, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to interrupt me and ask. So knowing that 90% of the contributors are men, these statistics are not surprising, or should not be surprising. Right. For those who don't know the answer to this question, what percentage of the biographies on Wikipedia belong to women? What percentage do you think belong to women? Any guess is a good guess.
15%.
Close. And it's 19.32% of the biographies on Wikipedia belong to women. Only 19. Women make up 50% of the population. So this is obviously, we're working on this. To that extent, we're working on this about 5 years ago. This number was about 15%, and Wiki Education embarked on an initiative to add more biographies of women to Wikipedia, and we're now at 19.32%. This is an image of a large sinkhole or a large gap in a road. Enter Wiki Education. We want to fix these content gaps by empowering your students to edit Wikipedia. This is a screenshot of a recent staff meeting. We're a small nonprofit organization made up of, are we 11 now? Or 12? Helaine? I think it's 11. We're 11. We're 11 now. Oh, we're 12. We're 12 employees now. And we are independent from the Wikimedia Foundation, the organization that hosts the Wikipedia servers. And our mission is to connect the world of academia and other knowledge-based institutions with Wikipedia. We work to improve Wikipedia and Wikidata content by engaging professors like you and your students to subject matter experts to assign the Wikipedia student assignment. So about the Wikipedia student program, it's our flagship program. It's been around for around 11 years. And the program has supported over 5,500 courses in that time span across 800 institutions around the US and Canada. We've worked with now over 108,000 students. And they have contributed over 91 million words to Wikipedia. And their work has been viewed billions of times. And you might ask, how do we make this happen? The program is fully funded, is complete by grants, and is completely free for instructors and students to participate. Okay, so let's review the Wikipedia student assignment. That program assignment employs a simple but powerful concept. Instructors like you have your students contribute to Wikipedia as an assignment in your course. So your students are in a perfect position to edit Wikipedia because they have access to academic knowledge that's often behind paywalls. Furthermore, with the Wikipedia assignment, your students are no longer writing for an audience of one, which is normally you, the professor, but now they are writing for the whole world. This is a picture of an impact crater in the Democratic Republic of the Congo that is 11 miles wide and over 500 million years old. You're going to see a lot of images of impact craters. The reason there's an impact crater is because I like pictures, and I think impact craters are pretty fascinating. But to that point, also, we're going to be talking about the impact that the Wikipedia assignment has on students, professors, and the world, and especially the long-term impacts that the assignment will make on them and you. So your students will gain basic research skills by researching articles related to your course topic. They'll gain basic writing skills by writing a neutral fact-based encyclopedic article for Wikipedia's global audiences. And they'll gain critical media and information literacy skills. And this will allow them to also learn how to discern fact from fiction in a world that is being destroyed by misinformation. So why incorporate the Wikipedia assignment? It gives your students a chance to do something that matters. Speaking of doing something that matters and why you should incorporate it, in the past 3 semesters, these classes have added over 500,000 words to Wikipedia from UC Berkeley, community-based economics, global poverty and practice, interdisciplinary research group on privacy, African politics, civic technology, and the California natural history. Yes. So this is a quote by a student named Lalo Mendez, a student from UC Santa Cruz, who expanded the article on the 2001 California Assembly Bill to inform dreamers of their rights. He says, the opportunity to help expand an article and body of knowledge to help educate others was both exciting and a challenge, he shared. As an undocumented student who has learned to be resourceful, I know that having updated information on such an article would help another student or ally learn about the requirements to ensure college access for dreamers. On the left side of the screen is an article on homeless women in the United States. Here at UC Berkeley, in Claire Talwalker's course, Global Poverty and Practice, 3 students significantly expanded this article to include sections highlighting the shortcomings of resources for homeless women and families. In addition, these students highlighted how homeless women rely on sex work to secure essential resources and how they experience incarceration and victimization as a result of homelessness. Here you'll see the article, on the left-hand side, you'll see the article beforehand, and then the students came in, and here highlighted in red, yellow, and purple, you'll see what the students added to the article. Secondly, you'll help build your students' intellectual confidence. When students are able to distill course topics into essential information and translate that for a general audience, and then post that information to Wikipedia, they report that it does feel good. And one of our students who tackled the Fair Use Act, a piece of failed copyright reform legislation, said it felt so impactful to be able to contribute to this repository of knowledge that everyone I knew was using and leave behind something valuable. That article, her professor then went on to say, that article has been viewed more than 1 million times. It's probably going to have more views than any piece of scholarship I write for the rest of my life. At Princeton University, a Black Lives Matter student group significantly expanded the school discipline article to highlight the disparities for Black students in the United States. On the left, you see the original table of contents and the first introductory section. And on the right, you'll see the significantly expanded section on the disparities to Black students in the United States, highlighting the disparities at the federal level across the United States in school districts and within the classroom. Here at UC Berkeley, last fall, Alan Chabel's course on California natural history, 3 students worked on the article about the gray fox. And on left, you see the original. On the right, you'll see that the students added 3 new sections regarding interspecies competition, ecosystem role, and the hunting of gray foxes. Today, that article gets viewed an average of 414 times per day. Thirdly, you're going to get a chance to equip your students with tools to understand and participate in their digital landscape. A significant part of the assignment is achieved through class collaboration and with the peer review exercise. Students can review first drafts of their peers and also interact with other Wikipedia editors outside of the classroom. One student said, the talk pages really blew my mind. Everyone is able to communicate with one another and help each other to make sure the content being published is the best quality it can be. Here is a screenshot of an article written by a group of students at UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley, it's brand new. It's called Drag in Africa. This is, on the right-hand side, you'll see the introduction, and then on the left side, you see the introduction. On the right-hand side, you see the full length of the article. I imagine that drag will be way more significant someday in the future in Africa than it is today, judging from how amazing drag is here in the United States. This is an image from space of our beautiful planet, and I want to talk a little bit now about the impact that Wikipedia has, that the assignment has on Wikipedia and on the world at large. In this article by 2 MIT researchers, they recognize that science is shaped by Wikipedia. These scientists had chemistry PhD students write 43 missing chemistry articles. They published half of them onto Wikipedia and held back the other half as a control group. They discovered that, I alluded to this in the beginning of the presentation, they discovered that word use in chemistry papers published after the experiment were significantly more similar to published Wikipedia articles versus the control group, as well as the sources cited in the students' Wikipedia articles had a 91% boost in citations to those journals after the experiment. Similarly, the same scientists did the study back in May of 2022, and they discovered, they repeated the assignment with Irish Supreme Court cases. They also shaped the assignment in the same way that Wiki Education does its work, and they had students write missing articles about Supreme Court cases. They held back half of them and published the other half. They discovered an increase in citations by court cases, by the courts by 21%, and that the rulings use language more similar to the Wikipedia articles when citing those specific cases with Wikipedia. In essence, Wikipedia affected the framing and meaning of cited articles and cases. So this is an image of the Army Nurse Corps calling on women to join the Army as nurses. At the top, it says, "You are needed now." And on the right side, it says, "Another wartime effort, send more men, won't you answer the call?" Well, you are needed to help address content gaps on Wikipedia and to help correct misleading information on Wikipedia. Yes, the assignment is a departure from your traditional class assignment. Most of your students and most of you will have never edited Wikipedia. That's why we provide you with tools and support to make the experience fun and collaborative for both you and your students. Speaking of correcting misleading information, on the would you let Mohammed Mohammed into the Zoom room? Okay, cool. One of our students helped correct this article on rape culture. It's a screenshot on the left-hand side, and it only included the effects on men. And one of our students noticed that and quickly fixed it so that it would include the effects on women. They make sense. So you might ask yourself, how do I teach with Wikipedia? We designed a little graphic to help you understand how the program works. At the top, the graphic is Wiki Education providing tools and resources for you and your students. In the middle, instructors guide their students in editing Wikipedia articles. And at the bottom, leads to Wikipedia's more than 750 million unique devices or close to 500 million users per month getting good fact-check knowledge. So let's talk about your role and the role that you play and the tools that we provide you. In 1 second here. So as an instructor, you will teach the course subject matter. You provide expert advice on sources to your students, and you will also evaluate your student work. Wiki Education will provide you with an orientation that has trainings for you on how to incorporate the assignment. There will also be there's a flexible, customizable curriculum based on 10 years or 11 years now of supporting Wikipedia assignments. You'll get access to the dashboard, course management software, and in case you have any questions, you'll be able to reach out to one of us to help answer that. So to get started, all you do is you'll visit teach.wikiedu.org, and it will bring you to the following page. Here, you'll click the icon to apply for spring 2023, and it will lead you to Wiki Education's dashboard. On the dashboard, if you have a Wikipedia account already, you'll be prompted to log in with that. If you don't, you'll be prompted to create a new account, and you'll be prompted to create a username other than your real name and asked to allow sets of permissions so that our dashboard can connect with your Wikipedia account. After you've allowed those permission sets, you'll be prompted for some information about yourself and then guided to the orientation. After you've completed the orientation, which takes about 30 minutes to complete, you'll be guided to create a course page where you'll be prompted to input information about your course for submission to Wiki Education. On this page, you can submit feedback about the orientation process and click on Create a New Course Page, and you'll be guided to our course design wizard. Using the wizard, you'll be asked to enter information such as your course title, the school, the expected number of students, the course description, and any other relevant information like the course term that we're in, and your role as if you're either the instructor or teaching assistant. Then you'll be asked to input your course start and end dates and weekly schedule so the wizard can tailor the project specifically to the timeline of your class. And it is still completely customizable. You'll be asked a series of questions to help you and your students get the best out of the assignment, from how to choose articles for your students to work on. They'll talk about tricky topics to work on, getting peer feedback from and setting assignment expectations. Once you've completed the wizard, you'll get a summary of your responses to those questions, and you will be prompted to generate a timeline for your project that's still completely customizable to you and will be accessible to view by your students. At this point, you'll be brought to your very own dashboard timeline for your project, and you'll be prompted to submit the course for approval, most likely from our very own Helaine Blumenthal here. And let's go over what this looks like. So here's what an image, a screenshot of the dashboard home. You will be asked, you'll be able to keep track of all your students' work from this page. You'll be able to see the articles they've created, the total number of edits, the articles that they've edited, how many words they've added, how many references they've added, how many views students' articles have received. From the dashboard timeline, you'll be able to keep track, of which assignments your students have completed per week and see what is coming next week as well. In the Articles tab, you will come across the authorship highlighting tool. This tool will allow you to see and access what your students have added to Wikipedia. This will always be accessible to you even after the course has been completed. So let's talk about the role of your students. Like I mentioned earlier, your students will research articles related to your course topic. They'll write a neutral fact-based encyclopedia article for Wikipedia. In the process, they'll gain information literacy skills. And Wiki Education will provide your students with online trainings on how to edit Wikipedia, step-by-step guidance on article writing through the dashboard, and a human to talk to when online resources don't answer their questions. Here is an image of what the training module looks like from the student's end, and they can also have access to the module from the course timeline that was created when you submitted your course information. In case your students have any questions, they can type it into the Ask a Question box up here on the right-hand side. And this will bring them to our fact page, which we've housed solutions to many common problems on Wikipedia. Sometimes your students might come up against something that doesn't make sense, but to a Wikipedia expert, it does. This is a non-free rationale for file and warning here. And in case that happens, you can ask one of our Wikipedia experts for support. There's simply go to your dashboard, and there's a link that says Get Help, and there they can ask questions from our Wikipedia experts in case they do have a question. And it's also accessible to you as an instructor as well. Some cautions: your students will be interacting with people online who might have differing opinions than they do or that you do. Is also not right for all courses. Introductory courses with more than 100 students are not advised to take it on. We recommend smaller undergraduate and graduate courses take on the assignment, but doesn't mean that that you can't. That lower classes cannot take on the assignment either. And finally, follow our best practices. Do not teach with Wikipedia on your own without our support. We're here to make sure that it is a positive experience for you and your students so that you can continue editing Wikipedia and continue using the assignment. And then once your project is done, with the Wikipedia assignments done, Wikipedia's millions of readers get access to reliable fact-based information on previously underdeveloped topics. So we can do this, you can do this, your students will thank you. We make it manageable and to incorporate the assignment and immediately beneficial to your students. It's my end of my presentation. Thank you so much. We have about 5 minutes. I also, at this point, at some point, let's do some time for questions. And I want to invite Corliss up to speak a little bit about her role in the library, about using the Wikipedia assignment and the support that you can ask of Corliss. So any questions? Yeah.
I have a question. I usually teach every year a class in culture and history, and it's a breadth. It fulfills the breadth requirement for, I think, international studies and historical studies.
Yeah.
And I allow 30 people in the class, and usually they have a creative like final presentation, and students can pretty freely choose in groups of 5 to work on whatever. I clearly they need to run it by me, and they make awesome things like posters or PowerPoints or you know, performances, whatever. But I'm thinking, how time consuming is this? Like, is the whole semester sort of then built around this assignment, or could this be, say, like a midterm until midterm and then they are done? Or like how many hours a week, like roughly speaking, would they engage with this?
I'm going to let Helaine answer that because go ahead first.
Wait, look, this one is working.
I don't think that one works. I think this one right here works.
Oh, this one is okay. Hi. No, yep, working.
Oh, maybe not.
I don't know. That one works.
No one saw that. Here, we'll just pass it. Hey, hello. There you go. Oh, wait, flip it over. Okay, there you
Okay.
go.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, so generally speaking, we don't support a course that runs for fewer than that devotes fewer than 6 weeks to the Wikipedia assignment, just because it does take students a few weeks to, you know, just to learn the basics of editing, right? It's not just like your traditional term paper. They do have to learn some basic principles of editing Wikipedia. And so, like, there are courses that do it in more of a 6 to 8 week time frame. The vast majority do it over the course of the semester. You can do it in a more abbreviated, like 6 to 8 week time frame. I think that's totally doable. But you really do need that, because like you do need a sort of 3-ish week introduction of just like how Wikipedia works and what is the structure of Wikipedia, and stuff like that. So, you know, and then in terms of like how much time per week, we've definitely developed the assignment to be kind of a building blocks, like a scaffolded building blocks type of assignment, where like, you know, the first week, literally they're just like creating their Wikipedia account, and maybe they're taking 1 or 2 training modules that take like 5 minutes a piece to do. Next week, maybe they're taking some more training modules, and then they're doing an exercise where they evaluate an article. So they learn sort of the basics of how to critique a Wikipedia article. And then, you know, the next week, maybe they're building their bibliography, or, you know, they're starting to think about what article they're going to edit. And then the next week after that, it's their bibliography. So it's all meant to build on top of each other. So the point is that they're never spending like a truly significant amount of time, like in any given week. So it's meant to be sort of cumulatively done. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. So then I could just run like my own stuff, the lectures I'm doing, movies I'm showing, and this would be just part of their course workload.
You could, yeah. So, you know, some professors definitely get more involved in the process than others. We do have other professors who kind of run it like, and parallel isn't quite the right word, but, you know, they sort of like let go, right? They say, you know, enroll on the dashboard, follow the instructions, and they kind of step back. I would say that it's helpful to be somewhat engaged, to kind of understand what they're doing, and to potentially even do it along with them a little bit, so you have an understanding, especially the first time you run it, because it is unfamiliar to both you and your students. But other professors are a lot more hands-off. It sort of just depends on what works best for you and for your students. You know, some students are a little more comfortable diving into the Wikipedia world than others, and it just kind of depends on the group of students you got.
Yeah, thank you.
Helaine, would you answer this question? Stacy?
Yes.
Well, actually, we had Sriharsh Kelkar raising his hand for a while.
Sure. Go ahead. How does that work?
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So this was great. My class actually has 100 students. So part of what I just heard was that it might be impractical. So I will think about it more. But I have a question about. So what Helaine just said about what you learn in each week, would it be possible to have that as some kind of handout? Because that was actually very helpful. And that actually relates to the question I was going to ask. In the last 10 years, Wikipedia editorial policies have become very strict, as in, to curb vandalism and so on. You know, your writing has to be a certain style. You have to cite in a certain way. They have a lot of policies. And so I was I guess my question was, it's really hard to edit Wikipedia now, even though the quality of Wikipedia has become much better. Because they have increased the editorial process, getting your edits to stick actually takes time. So I was just wondering how much you coach the students on editing Wikipedia, and how do we make sure that they learn those lessons that you're teaching them? Because then if they don't, then their article is not going to be accepted. Their edits will be revoked. So I was just curious about how that would be managed.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, just
yes.
making sure. Yeah, so well, just very briefly in terms of your 100-person class, yeah, as Andres mentioned, like we actually have a cutoff at 100 students. That it just the Wikipedia assignment doesn't work particularly well in larger classes. It's just too difficult to manage. But if you wanted, you could, like, I know professors who've had larger classes, sometimes they'll just have like a segment of the class through the Wikipedia assignment, so that's something you can potentially consider. Just wanted to address that. But in terms of getting the edits to stick, so yes, I mean, so the simple answer is all of these training modules that we've developed and exercises that we've developed that Andres demonstrated, that's their intent is to teach students how to successfully contribute to Wikipedia. We definitely recommend that that professors grade make the training modules a part of the grade.
Okay.
And so the dashboard does actually show you how many training modules they've completed.
Okay.
More importantly, it actually shows you how long it took them to do it. So, like, if you see that your student did a training module in under a minute, right, that should have taken 5 to 10. You can be pretty certain that they just clicked through and they didn't actually do it.
Okay.
And we're trying to come up with some mechanisms on our end to to kind of get students to spend more time on the actual modules. So they do the modules, like,
yeah,
they will get some very good basic training on how how to do all the things such that the work sticks. So I will say that the overwhelming majority of the work that our students put on Wikipedia does stick, and our students are contributing something like between 4 and 5 million words a semester. I don't have the number offhand of how much of that gets reverted, but it's a pretty small percentage. So most of their edits are actually staying in Wikipedia. And what we tell professors from the beginning, and we tell them to convey this to their students, is that having your work reverted is not the end of the world, right? It's how Wikipedia works, right? And if your work does get reverted, right, that's an opportunity for you to, so when work does get reverted on Wikipedia, all it means is that another editor came along and said, for whatever reason, they didn't like the contribution and they revert the article, just for other people who don't quite understand the process, they revert the article to the previous version. So your work is never gone. So we make sure that professors tell their students from the beginning, like, your work isn't gone, right? It's not like it disappeared. It's in their individual edit histories, it's in the article's edit history. It's always there. And what we tell them is, this is a chance for you. So when work does get reverted, there's supposed to be the person, the editor who does the reversion is supposed to give a reason, why they reverted it. And that's a chance for you to reach out to that editor and then come to a consensus and to get the work to a place where you can post it back. So it's not like nothing's ever permanent. It's a dialogue, it's a process. And it's not as though, oh, your work gets reverted, you're done with Wikipedia, right? That's a chance for you to engage. But it does happen, and students definitely need to be prepared for that as a possibility, and it can be disappointing, but I will say the overwhelming majority does not get reverted.
Okay, that's good to know. And I didn't want to sound unappreciative. I've been looking for something like this for a long time, and I'm really glad you have these modules developed, because I think it would be impossible for me to teach them that in addition to teaching the class. So I'm really happy you have all these resources, and I definitely plan to make use of them. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. No, you weren't negative at all. It's a real concern, right? And when it does happen, students, it is disappointing, and there are times where students, like, we have had situations where their work is reverted and they panic and they put it back up, which is not the procedure. And
Yeah.
that can actually lead to some complex, more complex situations. But it's a good question. It's a good thing, and it's good to keep in mind when you're adopting this as a project.
Just to go on to that, add to that, you also, as a professor, you'll have access to what your students added to Wikipedia, through the authorship highlighting tool. So you'll be able to, even if
when it gets reverted, you actually can't.
oh really?
But
Oh, my bad.
you can use the more. This is like getting into the weeds. You will be always able to see what they did.
Okay.
Whether it gets reverted or not.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other there's one question online. Another one online. She asks, what is the term? Are most proposals accepted, or resources more limited? What?
At this point, yes. So do you mean like courses?
Yeah.
So at this point, yes. We're in a very strategic growth period. I don't think I'm talking to the thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
We're in the answer to that question is yes. Most of the courses that come through, we do end up approving. So generally, we try, and in fact, what we try to do is going in. We ask a series of questions to kind of understand the type of course that's being submitted, and so we try to head off if the course is going to work from the beginning. So yeah, the main reasons a course would not get approved is size. So if it's a large course, it's a large multi-section course. If maybe the topic that the students want to work on is a particularly difficult one to tackle on Wikipedia. Sometimes, I'll give you a good example. This is kind of an interesting / unfortunate situation. Right now, all articles related to the Arab-Israeli conflict are semi-protected on Wikipedia, which means that you have to have, in order to edit any article related to that area, you have to have at least 500 edits under your belt, and your account has to be at least 30 days old. And most of our students can't meet those parameters. And unfortunately, the articles in that category are quite broad. And so, if you had a whole class on the Arab-Israeli conflict, we would say you should not do this because your students aren't going to be able to edit those articles. So there are situations like that. I would say they're fairly rare. So yeah, 99% of the courses that come through get approved at this stage. That might not always be the case if we reach capacity, but we're not there yet.
Did you say that the article on baklava was also?
No, I think hummus is.
Hummus.
Yeah, for example, hummus got included in the Arab-Israeli conflict.
Yes.
So when I say it's very broadly defined. Stuff like that. But that's fairly a unique situation. And those articles have been protected to prevent vandalism. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'm wondering how you, is there a rubric of how students get graded?
Yeah.
So grading is a little bit of a flexible, I think, thing when it comes to the Wikipedia assignment. So we do have a sample grading rubric. I should, Andres, remind me to send that to you at some point. I think it'd be good to include in the presentation.
I have it. I can pull it up really quickly.
Yeah, that'd be great. So we have developed a sample grading rubric that we make available. This is just for the main Wikipedia contribution. And so, it's just guidelines on what constitutes a good contribution, what's a weaker contribution, et cetera, et cetera. So we do have that. And then in terms of grading, what I tell professors is to be a little more flexible because it's difficult to come up with sort of uniform standards for what the students do. For example, one student might contribute 500 words to an article and another student might contribute 1,000 words. Those might be just as valuable, right? It depends so much on the available literature, what's the state of the article before they start working on it. And so it's about, at the end of the day, it's about quality. It's about to what extent did they improve this article, right? And that's where a 500 word contribution can be just as valuable as a 1,000 word contribution. So it's definitely a little more difficult to tackle. And I've had professors, do anything from treating the Wikipedia assignment as kind of like a pass-fail situation to, to more traditional grading, this is 30% of your grade or it's 20% of your grade. And they'll just have different points for different parts of the Wikipedia assignment. I had one professor who used to grade students just based on whether they turned it in on time. So it's definitely one where you kind of have to, you have to play around a little bit and figure out what makes the most sense for your own course. We've been a little bit hands off with the grading just because it is tough. We're supporting so many different types of classes. It's difficult for us to like say what grading situation is going to work best in your class. So it's kind of different approaches. But we do have this standard rubric. You can definitely like
Up here,
adapt.
and
Students like to know.
sure, yeah.
So what I tell professors, if you have students, and no, I get this all the time. They're like, my students want to know how to get an A. Like what is an A? And it's really tough to say. But if you do want to come up with like some sort of standard, I tell professors to do that in using references. So you could say, okay, well, you have to use at least 5 to 7 references, 3 to 5, right? Word counts, word limits are a little bit more difficult, and it's for that same reason, right? Like, you don't want students padding work on Wikipedia, right? To get to that, like, you say, okay, you have to do 1,000 words. You don't want them padding on Wikipedia to get there. I think, yeah, I think one of the things I tell professors is like, from the very beginning of the project, try to like explain to your students that this project is very much about the process. I mean, obviously the end product does matter. And at the end of the day, we do want their contribution to stick on Wikipedia and to improve Wikipedia. But I think what the students get out of it is the process of researching and writing and going through the whole process of learning how to contribute to Wikipedia. So I know not the answer you quite want, because I couldn't tell you what constitutes an A on Wikipedia, and I know they want to know that answer, but unfortunately you do have to take a little bit more of a flexible approach. Yeah. Good. We get this question all the time, though.
We have another question. What's up?
I have another question. So the idea here is, if I understand this correctly, that students would also be kind of led towards primary sources, right? If possible.
No.
No.
So yeah, in fact, Wikipedia does not want primary. Okay, this is a bit of a complicated question. Let me back up. So Wikipedia, generally speaking, does not want primary sources of information. It wants secondary sources of information. So it wants information that actually has gone through the filter of experts, right? It doesn't want, because what Wikipedia is not about, it's the place for established information. It's not the place for the latest and greatest, right? It's the information that's been accepted in a field, for however long that is, right? And so it doesn't want people to go, I'm talking about Wikipedia, so it's like an entity. Wikipedia is not a place where you go and say, like I'm a historian by training. So it's not a place where I would take my primary documents and make conclusions. It wants people to go to the secondary sources and say, this is what the current scholarship says on Wikipedia. So in fact, there are times in which you can use primary sources. We generally tell students to not use primary sources because it's even the situations where you can use them, you kind of have to be pretty advanced in your Wikipedia editing skills to know when you can use them and when you can't. That said, here's kind of a more like complex example though. Wikipedia considers news articles from reliable news outlets to be good information, right? So an article, let's say from the New York Times, would be considered a reliable source of information. But let's say you're using an article from the Times from like 1955, right? An historian might count that as a primary source, but a Wikipedian could use it as a secondary source, right? It depends on the context, but generally speaking, no. It wants academic publications, journal publications, news from reliable news outlets. That's, secondary and tertiary is what Wikipedia values.
Can you put the assignment quickly,
okay.
Chris? I'll just stay here if it's okay.
Yeah, totally fine.
So 10 years ago, when we were facing a series of ballot propositions in California related to prison reform, a partner organization and I were trying to figure out what would make sense in terms of employing UC Berkeley students, undergraduates, to support some of the hard work that was in front of these organizations to get a more critical lens of reform out to the public imagination, because a lot of prison reform was and criminal justice reform was coming from the sheriff's office and DAs. And so we really strangely came to the idea of we need to edit some public sites so that if the legislature in Sacramento is trying to find out information on what an organization is doing or how a community is being impacted with a new jail that's being constructed or a new police budget, that they have alternative sources to go to. So with the group called Critical Resistance, we came up with the idea of building building several new pages, which maybe was really ambitious 10 years ago, and Helaine, you may not advise us to do that 10 years into the future, but we edited several other sites. The biggest site that we created is one called the Prison Industrial Complex, which is now a very common term, but 10 years ago, the PIC wasn't a real reference point. It had, Andres just told me, 640,000 hits, and students created that in 21 AC. To make it really doable to take these big topics, build new pages or edit, it really created to what's been named a lot today, dedicated structure, a lot of time thinking about how the assignment fitted with the expectations already established for the course, and an engagement with supporting the students with a group project. So it goes through a number of stages here, like identifying that the theoretical and conceptual body of the work, in my mind, has to be really established first. So if we're going to put a new page together that's on juvenile justice, where is that established framework? So we spent a lot of the time creating annotated bibliographies, doing really kind of on-the-ground, library-based research. And I can't drive home how important that was. And that's why Corliss and I partnered on this work, is like ensuring that the library and librarians are really integrated into the classroom. And I would say anyway that culture that was established through Wikipedia by saying the first stage is creating this bibliography, it followed these students for life as from freshmen to seniors, but then they used the library more because they saw the power of being entered into it in the first place. Second, we took on head on the concerns of group work. So if you go down one more, please, Andres. We created this assessment protocol and grading tool, which was a group, and you could go down a little bit more. So we talked about how students graded themselves, graded each other, and then came up with a collective grade, how there was some established criteria for grading in the rubric, and then there was self-selected grading for the rubric. If you keep going. We also, to that point, we created a Wikipedia anchor. It was just a bit further up. So some students really did float to the top in terms of, I've never done this, I really want to do this. And so we had a separate section that supported the anchors for each group. That worked out really well. They were designated that special role, and they were given those extra 197 units that went with it. If we keep going down, it was really important. I thought grassroots knowledge and community-based understandings of certain topics also made their way into Wikipedia. We found that our community organizations didn't have time, didn't have expertise, didn't have opportunity to think about doing this work themselves. But the impact, we can't make a direct correlation between which ballot propositions passed and which ones didn't, but there was significant impact on how people were talking about topics after we'd done this work. Andres was showing this morning that after the murder of George Floyd in spring 2020, the prison industrial complex site had a huge spike of over 31,000 views that month.
From
7,000, right?
Say it again.
From
Generally,
like
from
7,000.
7,000 to 31,000.
Yeah. The students thought it was amazing. They really enjoyed it. The impact was substantial, and we're going to do it again and revisit it in spring. Some of the old sites that we've already created, and then editing some sites that I think are now even further important. But so back to this partnership with the library. Corliss, do you want to share how and why the library came into this project?
Sure, and I even have slides if you don't mind pulling them up, Andre. Basically, what everybody said. I think Andre said that your students are going to learn basic research skills. They're going to learn writing skills. They're going to learn information literacy skills. But that doesn't happen automatically. It really helps to have. This is what we do. Okay, we will help your students learn more about all of these things. Thank you. Talking through the mask.
Yeah, talking through the mask.
Always good thing. It's so fun. So you want to go to the next slide, I think, but maybe this, and then the next one. As you know, we don't have time to get into this, but Wikipedia actually has very strict standards about verifiability. Your article, the students' articles are more likely to be sticky, to stay unedited if they are well researched. Okay. Now the great thing is that the UC Berkeley Library has 13 million items, 1,400 databases. They're a huge library. The bad news is that your students, many of them have done research before, and the Berkeley Library has 13 million items, 1,400 databases, and so on. That's where librarians come in. Can we go on to the next? Oh,
Sure, I'm going to give you that. Just
Okay, can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay, could you go on to the next slide? And that's just a reminder about Wikipedia has all these things about featured articles and good articles. I mean, quality really does, I mean, despite what a lot of people think about Wikipedia, it's really an amazing structure that they've set up. And we can go on to the next one. And the next one. So you can contact me to brainstorm ideas about the research component of the assignment. Is it doable? How is it doable? How can we help your students? You can contact me or another library liaison, my colleague Jianye is right here, and she's our liaison for Chinese language and literature, and there is a library liaison for every department on this campus. So if you already work with somebody, feel free to continue working with them or a workshop for your class. Individual student support, students can contact us literally 24/7. There's 24/7 chat service for any assignment that includes Wikipedia-based research. And they can also set up appointments either virtually or in person. And there's a place on the library website where they can just set that up. So lots of different ways. Oh, yes, and the next one. The library is also hosting an edit-a-thon in February. So if you just sign up at that link, we'll notify you about when it is, no commitment. And my email address in case you have any questions.
great, thank you.
Sure, Helaine, go ahead.
Says, okay.
There you go. You have to speak right into it.
Yeah. I just wanted to add in terms of library stuff, like I cannot tell you, I've been with this organization for 8 years, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard a professor say to me like, this is the first time my students actually like went to the library or used the library, like physically set foot in the library. That changed during the pandemic a little bit, but like, you know, really, it's incredible. Like how many students like just don't know how to use their university library, and this project is a great entry into that. And one of the things I tell professors from the outset is if you can work with a librarian, like please do.
I would also say that it's not a one and done, is that a lot of the students were so invested in the pages that they created, they kept with those pages and they're still with those pages. And so it's this ongoing, you know, literacy here, yes, but lifetime investment, because students really do feel as if it's something that they created and they want to stay committed to. That wasn't something I expected. You know, normally you one semester, one class, and then they move on to the next one, but these assignments really did last a lifetime.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, we'll share the assignment so you can see like the breakdown. We had a Google Doc in the background, which was an additional sandbox so people could work out other ideas. Then annotated bibliography, how did the students grade that? We had in-class presentations. I really encourage the presentations because that was great. It was like students really getting into explaining why they made the choices around the topics that they did and the sources that they did. So yeah, when you have a lot of people doing different groups, bringing them back together felt really important.
And that's actually one of our, like, when you set up the assignment, that's one of the supplementary choices is an in-class presentation. Yeah, I've heard everyone who does them never regrets them. So
Thank you to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Victoria. Thank you.